like to say this before, every time I talk in public, I like to put this out there. You guys can ask me anything that you want. Anything. I cannot be embarrassed. I cannot be shamed. I just don't have that switch. So I throw down the gauntlet, I dare you. Just remember there may be some young people in the audience, and there may be some parents who might have a problem if we word things strangely, but I have found that you can talk about almost anything if you use the right words. I don't promise to answer anything you sickos ask, but you can try. Right on? So, are we going to pass a microphone?
I got it right here. I'm your mobile mic stand, so I'm just going to walk around holding it up for you. We got a question here. If you want to ask a question, raise it. I will point to you, acknowledge you. If I happen to forget you, just be like, dude, I was right here. So, once again, I'm your portable mobile mic stand. I'll be going around to each and every one of you. They're talking about importance, so shh. Okay, here we go. First question, let's get it rolling.
So you in Torchwood with John Barrowman. I mean, making out with him, how awesome was that?
1 minute. 1 minute.
And the first question, right there.
1 minute!
That was one of the hottest days of my life. And I'll tell you what, I learned something. I learned something about you ladies. You like the guy on guys. I mean, like, people are surprised I didn't know this before that, but I had no clue. And my fiance, who's not my wife, was on the set with us. She was on a bar stool.
Did she like die?
She was directing the kiss. She was like, we kiss, we turn to Jasmine's like, how was that?
Just do this, and...
Yeah, and she'd be like, oh, that was good. Do it again, you need another take. So she got like 5 takes out of this. And like, John will tell the story like he thinks that I had to reassert my heterosexuality by going and kissing Jasmine in between takes. But the truth is, I was getting more sugar that day than I had gotten. Like, she was all wound up by the shot, right? And so she was like, "Oh, kiss me." And I'm like, "Yeah." Because like Jasmine has like this incredible sense of smell, so she's always like, "Ah, peanut breath, no," whatever it is, coffee, no. But that day, she didn't care. And so I was just collecting sugar like a little honeybee. But John thought I was freaked out. He didn't know me very well. So yeah, that was a good thing. But I learned one thing, guys, and if you want anyone to kiss you, shave. For God's sake. John is the man, and he's got that sandpaper stuff, man, and that hurts. Yeah, it really does. It really does. Yeah.
Got another question here?
I promised Evan Morrow that I would ask a question about your project that you did with him. He's the writer and director of Abruptio.
Yes.
And he said, you can talk about it, because I said, I'm not going to ask if you can't talk about it.
Okay.
But he said, just don't give away any of the plot lines.
But talk about it.
But you can mention it.
Okay. Yeah, so I had just had oral surgery. I had stitches in my face. And I get home, and I want to just collapse on a pillow. And I got an email saying, there's a script you got to read right now. And I read it, and it was sick. It was one of the grossest scripts I had. I don't usually do horror, like slasher stuff, but in this one, like, the lead character is feeding bodies into a meat grinder. I mean, and that's not even the bad part. It's so bad. And I was just reading it, and I almost didn't make it through it. I was like, I am not going to be a part of something like this. This is just sick. And then I got to the end, and I was like, oh. And the whole thing, like, turned and it became really meaningful. And like, one of my favorite films is Jacob's Ladder, which is one of the darkest films. Scary, scary, dark, and then at the very end it becomes absolutely beautiful and transcendent. And I think that's art right there. And so this film kind of does that. And the other thing is, it's all done with puppets. It's the sickest stuff you can imagine, but they're all going to be puppets. So it's going to be either a wonderful failure or it's going to be like a cult classic. And I love projects that dare and are brave, and you have this sense that we're going to jump off a cliff here, and we're either going to splat on the rocks or we're going to fly. So everyone start flapping. And I went and recorded the voice for it about 2 weeks ago, and I thought we got a really good recording, and now director and everyone's going to do puppetry for like 2 years and try to make it all work. And that's the hard part, obviously. So I hope it works. Yeah, we'll find out.
And what was that project called?
It's called Abruptio. Yeah.
All right, we'll get another question back here.
Do you still keep in touch with any of the cast members from Buffy the Vampire Slayer or Angel?
Yeah, you know, let's see. Tony Head. I like to keep in touch with Tony Head. Tony actually taught me my accent. Like if you go back and watch School Hard before he worked with me, it wasn't that good. It was like that. Like I went, you were my first line. You were there. Sounds like that from New Orleans. And finally I had said bullocks, right? Because it was spelled that way in the script, and we moved really fast. So it was Bullocks, bullocks, and so I said bullocks, and then he just lost it. He just came and says, "We don't say it like that in practice. You need help. I'm going to help you. Now you come to my trailer every week. We're going to go through it until you get it right, and then I'm going to release you, and then you can go and film it, right?" So he gave me free lessons until I actually got all the sounds and everything. So it wasn't for Tony Head, I probably would have been killed off. And who else? Faith, man. She's totally. I love seeing her. She is very much like her character, but also a really kind person, which doesn't seem like you could have the same thing going on, but she manages it. Nick Brennan and I always get along. I wish him well right now. He's recovering. There's Amber Benson is one of my favorite people in the world. You know, she is a really smart, talented storyteller. She did a film called Chance years ago, and she was starting to produce, write, and direct. She was doing her own film, and I used to produce, write, and direct for theater, and so I have a soft spot in my heart for someone who's doing that, starting small and building up. And she asked me if I wanted to help her out, and I was like, sure. And I expected that she needed someone to hold the camera or buy the props or something. She's like, no, you're going to star in it. I was like, okay. I already know how to do that. So, but then I got on the set and I started realizing how intelligent she was. She was shooting digitally, and one of the major costs of film, especially the relative cost of low budget film, is buying the film and developing the film, right? Like when I was a kid, we used to shoot Super 8 movies. We'd save up all our money to buy the film, but we never saved enough to develop the film. You know, it was very expensive. So she was shooting digitally, which made it a lot less expensive. But back then, digital cameras were bleaching out the color. And so the movies weren't using them yet because of this problem. And she knew this problem, so she painted all of the color on her sets, highly saturated colors. And she made the makeup on the actors a little more saturated than was normal, so that by the time it got through her camera, it looked beautiful. And she showed me what it was looking like on film, and I was like, on the monitor, and I was like, you are a genius. You solved the problem. And she was able to find cheap fixes for anything that came up. And I think she's just a genius. So yeah, I love the cast. There's a lot of good people there. Yeah.
Got a question back here, right down the middle.
Boink.
Yep.
Hello, James.
Hey.
A critic who saw Devil You Know says it's going to make True Blood fans blush. So
Yes.
I wondered if you could tell us a little about your experience or about your new project.
Okay. Wow, a critic saw it already? Wow. The Devil You Know is I don't think it's been officially picked up. Have you heard something that I haven't? I hope that means it's going to get picked up. It was a pilot that I shot for HBO about 5 months ago, directed by Gus Van Sant, who is one of my favorite directors in the world. He got an Oscar nomination for Good Will Hunting. And he directed, earlier in his career, he did a movie called My Private Idaho with Rivers Phoenix before he died, and Keanu Reeves, about two gay hustlers, prostitutes, who one of them had aphasia, and so he woke up in the middle of nowhere, and he wakes up a lot in the film, in the middle of nowhere, and has no idea how he got there, and he has to figure it out. But the whole thing is based on Henry V by Shakespeare. And it works. It's just, it's a really atmospheric, beautiful, strange film. So he was directing, which was good. And then the writer, producer of Orange is the New Black is the main writer, creator of the project. So when I got the role, my manager was like, James, you do realize this is the project everyone in Los Angeles wanted to be a part of. So, learn your lines. And they cast me as the hero. It's about the Salem witch trials. And so it's really about a community that eats itself alive. And there's not a lot of heroes in that story, frankly. But there's one, and that's me. Which means that they kill me. They assured me that they wouldn't kill me in the first season. So hopefully I'll last a couple seasons before they crush me to death. But it was really nice to play the hero, frankly. Like I'm used to playing the villain. It is, there are going to be scenes that make it a lot of people angry, frankly. Like Game of Thrones does a lot of cheesecake, a lot of beefcake. They do a lot of sexy scenes. But the sexuality in this is a lot edgier. I don't want to give too much away, but it will offend people. And I don't mind offending people. I think sometimes that's when you know you're doing something memorable. But what I will say is that everything in it, no matter how racy or controversial, it feeds the theme of the story. It's not just in there gratuitously. It all adds up to something. It's real art. And HBO said that they were more excited about it than they've ever been about any project. They love the dailies. They basically cannibalized all their television shows for the top people, like their top director of photography, their top computer effects, all the top people they cannibalized and brought them together to make this thing. And so we're just waiting to see if it's picked up. And if it is, we are waiting for winter to descend on the East Coast again so that it can freeze us to death again outside. And that was the only part of it that was hard, because that was so cold. Like when you're shooting, when you go to the snow, you get cold, but you have like insulation, you have boots. And we had, period costumes, which is just thin leather and thin-soled shoes, and you get hypothermia, frankly, but it's worth it. So.
Got another question over here?
All right. I read your Wikipedia article ages ago. It said you were from the Memphis, Tennessee area, Kentucky.
Well, I am if you pay me, of course. But no,
maybe later.
I could try that if you want me to, but I don't think that's where I'm from. Can you
all right. Well, I'm not sure. But are you a whiskey man? If so, what kind and which brand?
No, I used to be a Jack man. Jack Daniels. I was just straight up, just give me the Jack. But I was in Australia and I had been drinking Jack, and I was not doing too well that morning. And we were doing a convention, and Mary McDonald, who played the president on Battlestar Galactica, that older lady who's hot still. She looked at me. She's like, "How you doing?"
So great.
And I'm like, "Fine." And she said, let me tell you something. How old are you? And I said, I'm 50 years old. She goes, okay. She said, I hung out with a group of people that really partied. And I had a lot of fun. It was great. And half of us, when we all turned 50, in our 50s, half of us slowed down, and we're all fine. And half of us didn't, and they're not. And that's all she said. And I started thinking about it, and I started looking in the mirror carefully, and And I thought, you know, you're gonna have to start taking your health really seriously. Because like you look at like Ringo Starr, and he looks as good as he did during the Beatles. I mean, he looks absolutely awesome. But I met him, and the dude, you know, the dude doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, he doesn't eat sugar. His diet is perfect. You know, Paul, same way. Paul McCartney, Sting. You know, it's all about yoga and wheatgrass. You know, so there comes a time when you have to really start doing that. And so at this point, I'm not eating sugar. I'm very low carbs. I try to keep my diet really good. I'm not drinking, not smoking. I'm like Mr. Sting now. Unfortunately, no whiskey anymore. But my energy level's better.